Okay, this is about love, you know.
Love. Aren't you a little too young for that, Bono?
Tonight we will be speaking of love. Exploring the essence of love. So, what's love to you? Like, just, say a little something about it, each of you, so we get a sense of what you feel about it.
Well, I think it's caring, and it's the thing that kind of glues people to the world together. Because without it, I don't know, it'd be pretty horrible.
Yeah, it's caring. That's right. The scale of caring is a scale of love.
Well, yeah, there are many different degrees, I guess.
Well, the most powerful love is detachment. It's involvement. It's extreme involvement and extreme detachment at the same time. So this is God. It's when like people are always asking, well, if God is here and involved in the world, why is all this awful stuff happening? And the simple, the short answer to that is that God is detached and extremely involved at the same time. So maybe God doesn't like war, but in the midst of a war, God will come to a single person, a soldier or a civilian, somebody who isn't even fighting the war, but who gets involved in it, and God will save that person from some awful fate, or just guide the person out of something that they're going to be harmed by, and or use the situation to teach a lesson that the person will use to advance spiritually. So that's the highest level of caring.
Well, I think I'm not on mute. I'm here, right? You hear me?
That's right. I'm here.
The main thing is when you love, you unswitch, and you become involved with other people. And so even a little bit of that goes a long way. And yes, it is caring, and you care about someone else, like you say, detached from your own desires and wants, and you actually fulfill them, your needs, in loving someone else. Because it doesn't work to do it just for yourself. Just wanting it doesn't work. But when you give to yourself as well.
I totally agree with that, Greg.
Well,
so even though you may not, you give to the other person, even though that person may not fully fulfill everything you might want in life or in a person or in your mind's eye or in your heart, but by doing that, your heart does become full.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to be on mute because I'm driving in the car.
I think God can be detached because God focuses on loving him or herself first, and then it's like triage. God just helps. It's like a one big sweep. God helps, with a key person or a situation, like you said, to have a lesson or not because, God's detached because, like I've discovered, you have to really love yourself first so much that your love pulls the other people through. And I remember back when we used to describe love as training and empowerment. Like, in other words, like stopping to show somebody how to do something, or like give them a push in the direction that they want to go. And empowerment, that's like wanting them to exist is a form of love, like wanting them to be here.
That is truly what love is. It's training and empowerment.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always look like what, this other, like, idea of, like, good feelings and hearts and, but stopping or just giving somebody. That's why I keep a lot of my conversations public rather than private, because I think it's training and empowerment to show people things in public.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's kind of wasted and self-serving, and that's not the kind of self-love I'm talking about. Like, it's a different kind of self-love.
Well, that's pretty honest, yeah. It's good to expose it.
Uh-huh.
Well, in the airlines, they say first put the oxygen mask on yourself and then put it on your child.
Mm-hmm. But again, it's kind of like the spirit of that, like you're doing that so that you can stay alive to save your children and other people too. It's not just so you can be the last person left all the time, which is what a lot of people do. It's like you're supposed to be the biggest, most, like 144th dimensional, as we say, so that you can include and assist all the others. And then from my experience, once you're there, you don't necessarily have to do anything, you just have to be something, and that pulls people through self.
Well, if you're doing that and nobody makes it, you will be the last person left.
Yeah, well, I know that. That's why I'm playing the game, because I like being the last person left.
Could we safely say that the members of the Cure team are all committed to being the last person left?
Where the last shall be first.
Doesn't God say that? Isn't that a part of in the Bible?
The last shall be first is part of the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be the first in the next world.
That's what that means.
The last people to get the lesson will be first. Oh.
If I am the last person left.
I'm the last person left.
It means I've assimilated more lessons than everybody else. Is basically. So the mother's instinct, like most people, are at either passionate caring or coercive caring, but they're not at detached caring. People who are at coercive caring get angry at people who weren't wearing a seatbelt when they got in an accident and got themselves hurt. Like they'll be vindictive. They'll say it serves them right. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt. That's coercive caring. With passionate caring, like something goes wrong with the plane and the mother reaches for the oxygen mask and puts it on her child because she's not at the highest level of caring. She's just like following her. She has this attachment, like she wants to save her child because she doesn't want to spend the rest of her life blaming herself for not saving her child. And she is putting this oxygen mask on. The child passes out. The child doesn't get the oxygen mask on and dies. She was just trying too hard to save the child.
Yeah, in that sense, it's like people save the children because they think it's them. It's not really. It's kind of a different form of love. Like you're saving the thing because you think if that thing dies, you will die. You're not really saving it for its own sake.
Well, what I've noticed is really loving people tend to live a long time. Partially because they have something to live for, and partially because they take very good care of themselves. Because when we're loving, we know We have to take care of ourselves so that we can be there for the other person.
That's a really good example. Why I take care of, because like there were two instances in the last week. One was last night and one was where I didn't take care of myself. Like I physically felt bad and I was unloving. Once was over at Melody's house and I had not taken care of myself. Then I woke up and I didn't feel well and one of her little kids came in like all, you know, like the way little kids are, and I was kind of short with her and it wasn't her fault at all. It was like I didn't feel well about myself and I was unloving. And then last night too, I ate something wrong or something, and just for the moment I didn't feel well, and Nancy said something, and I kind of made a response that wasn't, you know, loving. I apologized later, but I realized how often people, and I feel good almost 90% of the time, or 99%, and I realized that most people, you know, like probably half the reason they're not loving is they just don't feel good, so it's hard to be.
That's right. When your body is dragging you down, very hard to care about other people. And see, yesterday I came to the conclusion that love, like you love somebody when you feel as though you are essential to their well-being. And they just can't survive without you. And you just want to be there for them. Like you're feeling like a huge sense of like you want the other person to be happy. You want them to be healthy. You want them to be, you know, like emotionally happy and so on.
Some of that can be slightly self-serving too. Like I notice there's key people in my life, like you guys, or like I just love Jordina. Like every once in a while, I know she really wants love a lot, but every once in a while, I'll express my love to her publicly because I know she likes public love. But it's also giving myself something too. You know, it's like giving myself that relationship, which is an empowering relationship for the most part. Like how I show my love for the people in my life is kind of calculated sometimes, you know, like, because it's like loving parts of myself. It's like loving myself to love others or show my love, extol my love for others.
You mean it's calculated to make them happy?
Well, yeah, I like to make them happy. Like even like what I do with Fran, like certain people I don't want to lose. They're important to me. They're part of my immune system. So I have to like cultivate and take care of them sometimes. It's empowering myself to empower them. In other words, I think that's part of love too. When you start seeing everybody as, you know, connected or related to yourself, it's easier to be more loving. To sacrifice people less. That's always been easy for me because I think I came out that way already knowing that we were connected. You know, everybody was myself. But I think that's what's meant by discernment. Then you have to be discerning about how to, you know, which move to make. Like you were the one who always told me that. Like I have to be actually not see everybody as exactly the same. I have to recognize which relationships are key relationships and to get more, like a better effect.
Sure. I put the camera on.
Wow. I've been training and empowering my aunt. Like it's one thing about what Fran used to say, like I have not much to lose, and it's kind of true. But by not having anything to lose, I can really shoot, you know, like wildly. Like my aunt is having a conflict with this guy who's renting the apartment here, and I realize that I'm where I always wanted to be. Like I feel like I don't fight for one person's side because I don't really have those kind of alliances. I'm mostly trying to fight for, love or God or the truth. And that feels really good. Not to accept this. I'd like to train everybody like I was training her how to be with him, and she appreciated it.
When you love everybody, you keep yourself well all the time, so that whoever you're with benefits.
So love is always the answer.
Yeah, now what was the question?
To all questions.
Well, Franny,
Yes.
you're like a love expert. You always come from pure love.
Yes, and therefore I must take really good care of myself.
Yeah, the commutative property of love.
And well, I noticed, it seems to me that you do take rather good care of yourself. And it's just that you also have, dysfunctions. And this is where we run into problems, where we're dysfunctional and we don't either we don't know we're dysfunctional or we don't know what to do about it. But when you talk about people who you love, I've never heard you talk about like how you need this person.
Right.
Like you never say, I need my father, or I need Greg, or I need you, to me, for example, or whatever, or I need my sister. You always seem to be focused on what they need from you.
Right.
And that seems to me like the essence of love, that you always come from pure love. And also, you're not so much focused on giving people what they want necessarily, but you try to assess what they need and come through on that. I don't know.
Luckily, the people I love don't often want, like, they don't need and want a lot, which is nice.
Well, that's part of taking care of yourself. Like, if you pick somebody or something that needs and wants a lot, it's not terrible to do that, but you have to be very judicious about that, because you can end up giving more than you can afford and having nothing left to give.
Well, I know I kind of avoid people like that. I figure they can flounder around some, and then I feel like I put my attention on people who can actually accept what I'm giving, I used to flounder around and give to people who it just didn't make any difference. They just did the same old thing, and hurt themselves or whatever, and so I determined at some point when I was fairly young that I just didn't want to manifest being involved with people like that. Let them call someone else.
That's detached caring. That's the highest level of caring. Like you were telling me about somebody who called you and said she was going to commit suicide. Tell the story.
Oh, well, I've told it before, but there was this woman when I was in college, and I don't know, I guess I kind of always, in those days, I always sort of attracted like kind of misfits and stuff like that. So one time in the middle of the night, I get this call from her, and she tells me that she's going to commit suicide. And of course, I just told her, "No, you're not," And I don't know what I told her. We talked for a little while, and then, I wondered whether I should call somebody in her town or something like the police. But then I just said, she has to do whatever she does. And I just told her, you're not going to do that, and there's no reason to do that. And then I hung up, and that night, in the middle of the night, I just decided I was not going to manifest people in my life like that. And I never found out what happened to her, because I think we weren't in any classes together. I don't know how she had my number, but I didn't have her telephone number. So...
Usually people who say they will commit suicide don't. If a people is determined to die, they don't say anything, they do it.
It's probably true. I mean, she probably got what she needed from me during the phone call.
I don't know if that matters. Like, let's assume that God loves all of us absolutely and equally.
Yeah.
Even if we're awful and we're, not on this call. We're not the good people on this call. We're those really bad people who are not on the call. And, the ones we see on CNN, who shot, all the first graders and so on. And God works for the spiritual development of the person.
Uh-huh.
And what have you guys noticed that most people are not really able to let in a lot of spiritual development?
Yeah.
Barb, have you noticed that too? Oh, Barb, I think
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting better at, sending it to who needs it. Plus, you always have to remember, like today I wrote something I thought was pretty good to a friend of mine in Wisconsin, and probably wouldn't get in at all, but it was his friends who commented on it who got something. It's like that, the way it used to be at a party where you're talking to somebody and maybe they don't get it, but the person overhearing the conversation gets it.
That's the thing that's nice about Facebook. If you say something great to somebody, everybody else can get it. I think I go a little over most people's heads, though. You guys, might be better if you guys wrote to people on Facebook.
I'm really good at speaking in gradient these days to the right people. Or just not speaking at all. I'm just saying to myself and like praying or something.
Well, when I call people and run my outline, I notice that my outline keeps me appropriate for the person. And that the people I'm talking to do get the stuff I'm saying, and they do develop spiritually, and they have solid experiences and good gains.
Well, I can't say that since I decided not to attract people like that, I can't say that I didn't attract some people like that, but there were some people that were worth helping, like you, Bo.
Thank you, Bo.
Kind of an oddball person to do. You're not that way anymore. You're pretty normal, with a hint of detachment. I guess Greg has to go to his appointment. I don't know, with his father.
Well, can you think of some people who you love and what it's like to love them? Like Barb, what about you?
People that I've helped?
People that you love.
That I love? Oh, yeah. That I love? Yeah.
Now tell
I
me...
think, like what you said last night, I think I love some people, I realize, because I think I can help them. I know I'm supposed to help them, so I love them because I'm supposed to, or it's my responsibility this time. yeah, I love like almost everybody in my life, I think. That's why I'm with them. I love my friends. I love people in my family. I love all you guys. I love a lot of animals and children that I know. I love people. I pretty much, I feel compassion for humanity. I train myself to kind of focus on things like I can handle rather than get overwhelmed by like the bigger picture. I got caught in a conversation the other day with Anna's brother, who's like this theologian guy. He's been all over the world and he's an Orthodox Christian and paints these huge icons and stuff and has like $1 million collection of crosses and stuff from all over the world. And
Really?
And they were asking me questions like, well, if there's a God, then what about how can they allow a baby to be blown up in another country and all that? Wow. The questions I used to ask like 30 years ago. And I said something like, don't worry. I said, I think God cares less about the baby will be fine, and the person who bombed the baby might not be so fine. And then of course they thought, well, that's like a classic New Age response. And I realized that these guys are really in pain. They have asked every holy man and priest all the answers, but they don't have the result of peace in their hearts. And then the thing that got them to stop a little bit or pause was when I said, well, if you're not trusting God, then if you don't trust, that, the outcome has been, that God is detached enough to let these things happen, so that people will make these horrendous mistakes, but that everybody's going to be okay. And you have to be able to trust that. But anyway, I used to get stuck in those things years ago, and now I just try to keep it local, so to speak. Make a big enough impact. But I love like the people I've met through the Cure Drive. They seem sincere, the ones that are sincere. Even the ones that have dropped away, which is probably why I continue, because I think if I dropped away, that would validate their dysfunctions. I think deep down they want us to win. I love people who sincerely, question things. I love people. I pretty much do.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take those people you were talking to about God.
Yeah, they were having like an argument between themselves.
Now test this question. Could I have, would they have tested or gotten signals had I asked them to?
Yeah, and I did ask them to.
And did they?
Yeah, but sometimes people get their signal, like when they're especially in the heat of intellectual debate, and they stop into that nothingness of a signal, and it freaks them out, which is exactly what happened. It's too easy. It's too new age. Like that's usually the conversation. That's when they got mad. Like, well, we didn't ask you anyway. Like I was in the kitchen and I overheard the conversation. Like, never mind. We want to go back to our argument. Yeah, because testing is too, it's too empty. It's too, it's not as much fun as having an intellectual argument. It's not as energetic.
So they got a signal, and then they told you to get lost.
Yeah, and then they pushed me away and kept going.
Now,
which I pointed out.
So test this question. Did I save myself some time by doing that?
Yeah, that's why I do it. I do it a lot.
Because what you really want to do is quickly get to the rejection point with people.
So I can be the last person left. Just kidding.
So you can be the last one alive and not waste, so that you cannot waste your time, and maybe go to the next person and find somebody who is not a waste of time. Mm-hmm. Because there are people that we're sitting here, like there are, I guess there's 4 of us here, and we get value out of it. And if you have to go through, like, I have to tell you a story. I was just thinking about this. it was many years ago. Many years ago, it was like probably it was 1997. No, 90. It was 96. I think it was 1996. And Bill Pelly went to a convention for gay people. But there were some women there. But it was mostly men, but there were some women there too. And there were about 2,000 people on, it was one of these resorts in the Catskills in off-season. So there were lots of, rooms where they could do workshops and so on. And they had periods where they had like 100 workshops running at once, and you picked your workshop, and that went on for like the morning, let's say. Then they had other periods where everybody could show up and be in a group thing, like all together. And during one of those, the leader called for shares. There were about 1,000 people there. And Bill stood up and he said to everybody present that he had cured hepatitis B. And the leader of the thing said to him, he said, Bill, you should be leading this instead of like sitting in the audience there. You should lead a workshop. You should like step up, if you've done something like that. So then, like, after the thing, broke, when the thing broke, there was a handful of people, like, a dozen, people came over and they were slapping Bill on the back and saying, hey, great work, that's wonderful, congratulations, stuff like that. And this one guy said to him, I am dying. This guy came to Bill and he said, I am dying. I have AIDS. Not just HIV, he had AIDS. He had gone and he had had his second pneumonia, and the doctor told him they had 2 pneumonias over the spring and summer, and the doctor told him, like it was fall, and the doctor said, if you have another pneumonia, you're going to die. So he was like, making out his will, and he said to Bill, please help me. Please help me. I'm dying, and if you can cure hepatitis B, you can probably show me how I can cure this HIV, this AIDS, and I really need your help. And the thing to note here is there were 1,000 people there, and only one person did this. That's a very important story, because if you think about your friends who told you to get lost, it's really good that they did that, because you don't have any time to sit and talk with them, because if you're going from person to person and you don't have this gigantic group of people in a room.
Right. That's how I felt. That's how you can know you're on the high level of caring when you don't really care, because you're like, thank you, and then you move to the next, because you just don't care. You're just speaking the truth because you have to, because that's what keeps you on the higher dimension.
It's
that's like what they say in sales too. Like, you should be grateful when you get to know.
Yeah, it's detached. That's right. It's detached caring.
Yeah.
And see, this is what God is doing. Like, God is reading everybody continuously and asking who is just in that moment ready to receive some spiritual, benefit. Ready to advance just a little, to take a little tiny spiritual leap forward.
Yep.
That's what God spends every instant of eternity doing.
Yeah.
Ross, what do you have to say about that?
I think it's, yes, it's correct. You can't lose time with people who don't want your help. It's happening with my sister, and it's very painful to me. but I have understood that it's useless to insist. There's nothing I can do if she doesn't want to do immunics. And I remember that when she did a few years ago, when she had the surgery, she was different, you know. And with my husband, it was the same. I remember Roberto telling me quite clearly, I'm not going to do what Bayer does. And I told him, okay, it's your choice. You're not doing it for me, for Bayard, or for anybody else. It's for you, but only you can choose. And it's very painful to see people you love not doing what can save their lives. But there's nothing. You can't force this on people.
Well, you know, I'll tell you what Meher Baba said. He said that God actually suffers in our suffering. And that he said that was his crucifixion. Like, that's the meaning of the crucifixion of Christ. You know, when Baba was, when he got God realization when he was 17, and he went through these different phases, and he went through a phase where he was experiencing the suffering of the universe. Now, when I was in Pune, which was where he lived at the time, one of his disciples showed me, it was like a stepping stone going into a room or a house or something. And he said that Bobby used to sit in front of that stone and hit his forehead on the stone when he was in this state of suffering, to try to get, how sometimes when you're in pain you try to like pinch yourself or something, or do something that's less painful.
Yeah.
And he said that Baba kept hitting his head against this stone, and all his teeth fell out. He was like 22 and he had no teeth. And he came from, Baba came from a middle-class family. He was, he had very good dental care and so on. He was, like, I saw a picture of him before he got God realization, and he was this little, he looked like a little British kid. They all were wearing their blazers and school ties, and it was a photograph of the cricket team. He was the captain of the cricket team at school. And so he went from that to, being this, Indian holy man. Anyway, the point is that we suffer in the suffering of other people. And when we're in detached caring, we don't try to do anything that other people won't accept. We just, we give and see what they'll accept. And that works pretty well. Like with the cat that I have, I adopted this little kitty the other day, and I noticed that sometimes she just won't eat the fancy food that I put in front of her, and so I'm not attached to her eating it. I just try something else. I gave her some dried food and she ate that. So I guess she needed some roughage maybe. But if we don't try to coerce, or just, if we don't push, then we will find the people, and also the people will find what they need. And so the whole idea of when I made my outline for talking to people, I tried to make something that would actually open it up for me and the person to discover what they were willing to do and able to do, and also what they needed to do. And that's why I'm still working on it. Now I put a self-assessment in it. And all of that comes from love, Like, I work all day as hard as I do because I really feel that nobody else can do what I do, and that everybody desperately needs me to do it. So even though they ignore me and don't accept, like Greg was saying, like I haven't been, like I haven't met or interacted with any famous people, or that they don't know I exist and so on, and that I haven't had the worldly obvious success that would show that I'm a success. And after he said that, a few hours later, I was thinking about something Nelson Mandela said. Speaking of Nelson Mandela, because everybody's talking about Nelson Mandela. There's a new movie coming out about him now. And I was thinking of something that he said. And what he said was that most of the great victories that human beings win are won in absolute silence, secrecy, and by themselves. And nobody ever knows
True.
about it. And I just have a feeling, because I know I was in jail, like Mandela, but not as long, thank goodness. And I won my greatest victories when I was in jail. And there was nobody there, to see them. Nobody I know now, anyway.
Yeah, sure.
But I bonded with God. That's where I bonded with God and saved myself and dedicated my life to God, was when I was in jail. Even though I didn't really know what that meant or how to carry it out, that's where it happened. So most of my life I have not looked in any way like I was dedicated to God, and I really didn't talk about God very much. But that was just because I didn't think it would do any good. It wasn't because it wasn't there. Now I feel more able to talk about God because I see the relevance of God to what, the practical things that you're discovering. All of you discover. And when I talk about God now, I notice nobody ever doesn't understand it or just disagrees with it or says, well, I believe differently. Because what I'm saying about God is relevant to what you just said. I'm just shedding light on what you've said. So I think a lot of our victories will come by being rejected by people. One thing about Barb I have to say is that you don't get rejected that much.
I do sometimes. Actually, I got something out of that one. I think I read it in Barbara's Discourses where it said when people reject you or put you down, it can be a good thing because it's it helps you clear karma faster. That last time I got rejected was that story I told you, and it kind of hurt at first, but then I remembered that if I just let it bounce off me, that actually was a good thing. I was I was strengthening myself by letting that happen. They represented a lot of people in one interaction.
Well,
I'm more immune to it. I used to really get devastated.
Then there are the people who assault you when somebody isn't rejecting you.
Pardon?
There are the people who assault you when somebody isn't rejecting you. They try to get the person to reject you.
Yeah, that's true. I've been assaulted a lot.
See, that's the problem that I think, Franny, a problem that you have, and how you love your father, and your father is locked into being an assailant. He can't stop assaulting. He does it, but he assaults everybody. And he's the nicest person. He's brilliant, he's funny, he has a great sense of humor, he's really fun to be around. He has great ideas, and he's a real teacher and a mentor. And in the middle of that, he assaults you. He just, boom, out of nowhere, he just comes out of, thin air, And I was talking with your brother about that. And he was laughing, Because it is weird. But another thing that's kind of interesting is that your brother married somebody who is... See, Jackie doesn't actually assault anybody like your father does, but it looks like that. It looks similar. It isn't. It's completely different, but it looks similar superficially. But I just thought that was kind of interesting that he finally chose somebody like that.
So what does Jackie do?
Oh, Jackie is just channeling attack. She has no immune system. You know, she just has to boost her immune system.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a simple matter of immunity for her. You know,
Did you tell Mies that?
yeah, she's really trying. You know, she's been in therapy at Mies told me for like 15 years. I think you have to give somebody who's done something like that a lot of credit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, she really is trying. So she's obviously a worthwhile person. And you know what? Everybody is worthwhile until they prove otherwise. And your father has done me so many favors, you know?
Yeah.
He's just such a generous and giving person.
Right.
And then he has this quirk, you know, he's an assailant, and he has no control over it. He just like, you know, it's like waving a red flag at a bull. And you know, there was a dog. I saw a dog on Bay News 9.
Yeah.
They had like the owner had committed suicide or something.
Oh.
And so they had to take his dogs into custody, and the dog was a killer. They said that this dog would kill somebody, and it was a sweet dog, you know, and they showed the dog trainer playing with the dog, you know, with a rubber glove, you know, and the dog they were like messing around and having fun. But they said they were probably going to have to put the dog down because nobody could adopt it because they didn't know what the word was that set it off.
Oh.
So if somebody said the word accidentally, the dog could kill somebody.
Yikes.
That's right. And that's your father, you know. It's like you don't exactly ever know what's going to set him off. But he believes he's totally rational. That's part of the problem, you know. He thinks his responses are normal.
Right.
Like when he assaults somebody, he believes that that's the normal way that you should behave. You know, and the only time, I have to say, that you have succeeded in reaching him a few times by being really angry with him. Like when you get angry with him, he realizes that he's done something wrong. And so he apologizes.
Oh, God.
But being irritated with him, by the way, does not work. So.
Well, no, there was one time when my sisters, I've forgotten what the circumstance was, but my two sisters were here last time, and I guess I decided not to do something, and he you know, he was like really angry about it, and you know, he does this sort of sulking thing, and you know, can't look you in the eye and stuff, and I just told my sister, well, this is one of the first times I ever noticed, you know, that I did this, which I just said, well, I just can't please everybody, you know. And I just let him be angry, you know. I didn't try and reason with him or anything like that. I guess he finally got over it. I wish I could remember what it was, but it was just...
Well, that's not the same thing as him assaulting you.
No, but it was interesting that... that was one of the first times
you were
I said
detached.
No, you know?
Yeah,
No.
you succeeded in being detached with your father.
Yeah, I'll tell you that was one thing about being with the kids too. You know, like it's like a really good instruction on how to say no. Because they, you know, like
yes, it is.
they you know, they have all these beautiful toys, and then what they want is the next thing. And one morning, or one time when I picked Hudson up, you know, I may have made a mistake on this, but anyway, he said, "Are we going to go for a new toy?" And I said, "No." And he said, "But you promised." I said, "I don't remember promising to go get a new toy." But he said, "Wait, I want a new toy." And I said, "No, we're not going to go for a new toy." And he started screaming, "New toy, new toy." And she lives in the building, you know, so behind the school. And so she said, "Well, what was he screaming about?" And I said, "Well, he wanted a new toy, you know." And I said, "No." And she said, "Oh, well, that's good. Just stick to your guns, you know." But it's like, you know, you have to watch what you say. You can't, like, intimate anything that would be misconstrued as a yes, you know. And but it's like, "Are we going to go here?" "No, we're not going to go today." It's like, and you have to learn how to say no without, like, getting all worked up and everything. Like, you can't get worked up. You just have to be firm.
See, that is, you know, Barb, are you relating to this? Or you're on mute?
Yeah.
Because do you, like, never say no until you're, like, crazed with anger?
Sometimes, yeah, that's kind of like a passive-aggressive behavior I've had. Yeah, I think I've sometimes let myself get pushed till I snap. But, not as much as I used to, I guess. But yeah, I've learned to say no, or just not care so much.
See, Franny, you're in, like, this passionate level of caring with your father where you're attached to him, or attached to getting a result with him. And the thing about your father is you should never become irritated with your father, and it's also very good to be angry with him. So you can be angry but not irritated.
Well, I know the difference. I mean, there's no reason, like, when he calls up, wants to go through these things, but lately he's been much better about it. You know, he wants help with his computer thing, and it takes me 3 hours to get him to attach something, you know, to an email.
Just don't ever do it again.
Well, I figured out a way.
You really need to. See, that's why your house is totally in a state of neglect. You are an example of somebody who loves. You're loving, and you realize that your father needs you, but you're simply not on a high enough level of caring to make it work. And so what's happening is that you're starving yourself to give things that don't really make a difference because you're just so desperate to get a result with the person. And
well, I actually did get a result with him.
And you're settling for things that are not really results.
Well, I got a result with him because you know, we got these smartphones and all this stuff.
Yeah, there's something that was good to do.
And it made it possible for him to send things to my brother by just snapping a picture and sending it.
You're right.
Instead of doing this whole rigmarole of scanning the thing in and figuring out where the hell it is in his computer, and then, you know, has the attachment and everything. So now they don't call me as often, you know, to do that back and forth business, which I'm very happy about. And at the end of the day, he lost some, you know, like he couldn't find his text edit, you know, and I said to him, this is how I started the conversation. I said, well, I'm very optimistic that that's a very simple, quick little fix. And he goes, it is? And it took us like 5 minutes, and he got the thing back, and he was able to follow instructions. So maybe I just have a different attitude towards it. Like I figured if he didn't do it in 5 minutes, I wasn't going to spend a whole lot of time on it. He would just have to do something else, you know, whatever.
So you've changed.
I think I have a lot.
And it's interesting that if you can get up to the detached level, you can actually get the result that you couldn't have gotten in 3 hours from the other level.
That's true. I mean, I changed my trip, and my father was the only person that I was thinking would be kind of maybe put out by it, but I couldn't find a reason why he would be put out by it. I mean, there's nothing that he needs that couldn't wait. In other words, like, I just...
Wait another 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the only thing, one of the tugs of going back on the day that I said I was going to go back is that, well, my dad needs me, but he doesn't really need me every minute, and I think he'll be fine. And so I just decided, that helped me decide to do what I wanted to do instead of doing what I thought I had to do, And then I did talk to you about it because, after all, we are working together, so I just wanted to know if you, had something you needed, but even then, I still probably would have stayed anyway.
That sounds like a detached level of caring to me.
Well, I didn't really have, since I was carrying the shingles and everything, I didn't really have all that much time to do there were more things that we thought of that we needed to do before I left, and if I'd left, maybe they would never get done, just going through things and straightening myself up. It's like what you were saying about neglect. Like I had things I left here for for years, and I just decided to really clean up and get them all out, or I gave some of it away, and just get stuff out, and so I'm out of here. So Greg has his space, and I don't have things hanging around in the ozone there, waiting to...
Is that love?
Yes, and also it encouraged Greg. I mean, he's been sitting here, I know he's distracted and he has other things on his mind, but he was sitting here with this room, and it was just not working for him. And I think if he feels anyway the way I do, where if things are in a disarray, I can't even think at my desk. Like, I sit there and I'm like...
Is Greg in the room?
What?
Is Greg there?
No, he's on the phone.
Oh. Hi, Greg.
He's out at his appointment with his dad. His dad had a doctor appointment.
Well, so do we...
I am here, but I'm in the throes of something where at the dentist and my father... This is my father here.
Oh, dear.
Okay, so...
All right.
So I'm going to go back on mute
Okay.
here. Or if you go, yeah.
So we don't...
You hold his hand.
So that we don't need we don't hear the screams then.
Right.
Yeah. He's just reacted, working on his teeth. And he's probably in pain and probably just doesn't want to be bothered. Because this is stupid, or this is, well, I'm not doing
I'll be dead soon. Why do my teeth?
It does make a difference.
I'm just telling the dental hygienist that she should get hardship, battle zone pay.
Yeah, right. Hardship pay.
Boy, they scare the other patients. I remember hearing somebody doing that. One dentist I went to, and I didn't want to come back.
Well, I think that we could say that Greg is with his father out of love, because he really does have the conviction that his father does not, have anybody else who would ever do what Greg has done for him.
That's true. Absolutely true.
And that his father really needs him, and so he's there as a, to give. And all these people, who go into disaster areas and they pull dogs out of raging rivers and stuff, they obviously are loving, and feel as though like they're indispensable, like they can't do anything else but that. It's just impossible for them.
Well, Greg's been taking very good care of me, and we also got a lot done around here. We rearranged the furniture, and we got him he had an opportunity to go through things and straighten things up. So I think his place is more conscious than it was before. It's really great.
I'm so
Well,
glad.
we're talking about, I can hear my father screaming way down. You know, when I was in the Oak Park Arms, I had a visit from people who were concerned about elder abuse. And they came and they looked at me suspiciously and they tried to interview my father. And, you know, someone called the elder abuse people the police on us because of his noises. And I said, oh, that's just Mark. Hang around for a while, you'll see. What's I saying about, I feel like the same thing we were talking about earlier with my brother, that as I am just a detached, caring, but definitely caring with my brother, and with Frank here, I become really connected to her spirit, and so it makes it easier. We're out to dinner with my brother, and my brother just yesterday left me a message, the longest message, the most coherent and intelligent and wonderful message.
Wow.
You know, how our relationship has changed. And that was one reason for me to be here also, because I'm an intermediary
Yes,
between
that's true.
my father and my brother. But it helps my brother along.
That really is true.
He really needs it. And I've really experienced that I'm getting so much back from my brother that I hadn't experienced as an adult, hardly ever, because we stopped living together when I was about 12 years old. He went off to school, and we've sort of been separate ever since then.
So there's no shortage of people to love.
That's
That's true.
Now, Ross, your feeling about your sister is that you love her and she needs you, yes?
Yes.
And at the same time, she won't accept what you want to give her?
No, she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to do what she needs to do, and now I'm able to accept that. I haven't taught her to do Immunix anymore. She knows I'm doing it. Very often I do it in front of her because I don't see why I shouldn't. But I'm not telling her, please try. I used to do that. I used to insist. It's her choice.
Right. Well,
It's not my place to interfere
here,
with,
let's
with her choice.
let's test something. Would it be good for me to ask her to test things more often?
I'm getting a no.
How about, would it be good for me to ask her to, when she doesn't, like when she's uncertain about something, would it be good for me to ask her to test it?
I'm getting no.
Okay, so, okay, well then, keep on looking.
Yes.
That's all we can do, is we can continue to look for people to love who will blossom and flower under our love.
Yeah.
We can.
I used to tell Bart, if you want me to be a certain way, just manifest me to be a certain way.
Yep, we can shower our love on people, and we just find the people to shower it on, and then they can grow. Do we all agree that we love somebody when we feel like when we feel like they need us? It's not about us needing something from them. Love is about them needing something from us.
Yes.
Right.
Test, Ross, is my sister getting things that she needs from me?
Yes.
Okay, so Barb, ask that about Nancy.
If she needs something from me?
Is Nancy getting things she needs from you?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Barb, do you ever feel like nobody needs anything from you?
Sometimes. Well, if I'm feeling, negative, if I'm feeling negative, but I know that sometimes I think people get things from me even if I'm not necessarily talking to them or even with them. Like I spend a lot of time alone too, or I've had periods in my life where it was the equivalent of being in prison, like you were saying.
Yeah.
I probably did a lot of my growth or made a lot of my realizations or even made an impact.
Right.
But I wasn't necessarily talking to people or writing to people. I was just, breaking through or making discoveries inside myself. So, but I've had that thought, I guess, when I'm feeling really down on myself.
Yes.
But more that, but I'm getting, starting to realize that,
So when
finally, but it doesn't matter, what my title is or what my job is or anything. It's kind of good.
when you're like that and you feel like you're simply not needed, do you ever try to what do you do then? Like when you have that negative feeling, like that nobody needs you, that you don't have anything to give them, do you feel as though you need things from other people then?
Yeah, sometimes maybe I'll feel lacking or get self-destructive or something or wanting. So I'll just go to sleep or something till I
See, the thing that we're all realizing during this conversation is that we're all degrees of caring and we're all degrees of loving. And at any given moment, like we just oscillate, we go up and down, like we're at a very high degree of caring about somebody 1 minute, and like the next we're just, like apathetic, and we go like that, and so we're never one way, and occasionally we really are like also. See, dysfunctions are different, like procrastination is an immune dysfunction. How does that interfere with love? Like, how does procrastination interfere with love? How about addiction is an immune dysfunction? Well, how does that interfere with love? Cancer is an immune dysfunction. How does cancer interfere with love?
You see, it does come back to sort of this loving yourself, because I came from a long line of people of people pleasers and people,
right?
Where self-worth came, with how much people liked us, and finally, I think I'm realizing, like, I just have to be, that it really is all me. Like, there's nowhere else I'm supposed to be, or no one else's reality is necessarily better than mine. I can totally torment myself by comparing my life to others or wanting to be somewhere or with someone that I'm not with, and then when I really get back to, and it kind of erases things like addiction and everything else when I realize, okay, I'm right, it's all me, not in a selfish way, but I just have to be, okay with myself and ready for the call, ready.
Well, here's a good one, okay? Here's a good one. Effort is an immune dysfunction. How does it interfere with love? Well, Ross was saying, remember you were saying that, you can't force it on anybody? What that means is, all you're saying is that you're not going into that immune dysfunction of making an effort.
Yes.
See? You're staying functional. Like when you don't force anybody, when you stay detached, you're functional. So
I used to do that, and then I discovered that it was totally useless. It didn't work. I used to insist a lot with my sister, do it now, do it with me. But it doesn't make sense.
And she got something out of it.
Her choice.
She got something out of it, but it never added up to her being okay.
No.
She just kept getting more and more out of it, but it didn't go anywhere. And that's another problem, is that people get something and it's worthless. Like, Barb, what were you just saying before I talked to Ross?
About how I have been really disabled by, needing others' approval or, wanting to be, with certain people or at some place where I'm not, and
Well, see, that was the question I was trying to ask you before, but I couldn't quite get it out, which was, when you feel like nobody needs anything from you, do you ever then, in the middle of that, start making an effort?
when I feel like that, do I make an effort, you said?
Yeah, do you ever you're feeling like nobody needs anything from me, I don't have anything to give anybody, and then do you start making an effort?
Sometimes, like is it immune dysfunction, like efforting?
Yeah, because that would be a very bad thing to do,
Lately, I've been willing to just sit still. I've made some kind of change lately. Like, see, it's okay with me to just go with it and go to sleep in the middle of the day or eat or whatever, and then till something appears or someone appears that really, where I let somebody else initiate or let life initiate it rather than me going out and looking for it or efforting.
Yeah, because if you're feeling like you don't have anything to give and you start making an effort, it's like putting your car in front of a brick wall and then smashing on the gas.
Yeah.
Some of these immune dysfunctions are killers. They really are, Like, most people look at this and they go, oh, effort, well, that's not so bad. My third grade teacher always told me to make an effort. Here's another one. Fixation is one. Another one is forestalling. See, but all of these things, these things put a shape on where you're not able to love or express love. Or what they do is, like, when you are able to express love, you're in a great place. You're at a detached level of caring, and you really know that somebody needs you, and then this immune dysfunction comes into play, and you fixate on the person, or you're making an effort with the person, or you're trying to forestall them from saying or doing something. Or you go into a gender modality or whatever.
Yeah, well, for me, it's mostly, like I said, if I'm feeling okay and I'm just who I am, I'm not trying to be anybody else, or, just that I realize that I'm just, as my friend Michael, or my former friend Michael DeVore used to say, be yourself, everybody else is taken. If I just, do my role, then I seem to be satisfied and in service most of the time. And that's
be yourself, everybody else is taken. I have to remember that. That's a good one. Michael DeVore died, didn't he?
I've just been accepting myself, and I think finally I'm getting a clue about that.
Michael DeVore died, didn't he?
No, he's still alive, but he's just mad at me.
Oh.
Not the two Michaels are mad at me.
Well, you know what? I don't know. I really don't know.
I have to admit, I've been listening to a little bit of that of Abraham lately, but yeah, that's good. I think you have to just be okay that you're doing enough sometimes, and just let trust that God will present you with the people or the situations that you're supposed to take an effort or act on. You don't have to look for it so much. I learned a lot from being on staff and watching the other people, your more senior assistants at the time, how they functioned when they were in their power, and I feel like I'm more able to do that now.
Yep, it took a long time to train them.
Yep.
Well, okay, so we are now all aware of one basic thing about love. And that's it. That's going to be the class, which is that love is you feeling essential to somebody else, like they need you, and you can't let them down.
Yeah.
That's love.
Yeah.
So you must.
Yeah, you think about dogs. Yes.
Yes, you think about dogs.
Dogs and children are very good examples.
Sure, but also you must feel, Barb I'm talking to, you must feel that we need you in some way or you wouldn't be here.
That's right. I mean, that's one of the reasons I don't just die or give up or really self-destruct. I realize, okay, that would be very selfish. And I also realize that I just have to just show up. It doesn't mean I have to do anything. I just have to be, available to be what you need for me to be.
Yeah, you'd be leaving us, some of us, all of us in the lurch if you didn't, be there.
You'd survive, but I will do my best to not leave you in the lurch.
Well, good. In that case, thank you all. Let's all link our etheric body. I'm linking my etheric body with yours. This is the Cure Drive Cult homepage. You can see we tally our cures. That's the tally there, 132,000. You report your cures here, right here. That's the link to report your cure. Okay, this is the movie that people start with generally. And there's a lot of people actually curing things on camera in this movie and demonstrating exactly how to do it. It's 4.5 hours. So you would be able to probably understand and know what these people are doing by watching this. We are a cult because we're all over the world. Maybe one person in a town, just one little guy who cures things in a whole town full of people who don't, whose spouse thinks she's crazy because she's curing things and he doesn't. She doesn't get sick and he's down with the flu for 5 days and he still thinks she's crazy. We've had spouses die. So this person is demonstrating curing herpes in this movie, the one you're watching right there. And it goes on like that. Now, these are the people here. You see this black area here? This is our Twitter feed. These are the people you want to talk to. And what you do, see, it says follow Cure Drive. And that's what you do. You click on that, and then you pick somebody. Anybody in here will be happy to help you. So you write to people that you see in here. And there's all these people all talking about what they're curing. So that's what you do. You pick somebody that that seems like a kindred spirit, presumably, and you write to them. See that picture of the cat there? That's Rosella. She's one of the people whose spouse died. He was a very great guy. He just thought it was nuts. Never did it. Died of cancer. Not too long ago, about 2 months ago. So anyway, you just, you write to somebody and, tell them what you, are trying to do. People are always asking about negative medical tests. Here, let me show you. This is a voicemail message. You should probably, if you're interested in getting a negative medical test on, let's say, herpes, she got negative medical tests and both kinds of herpes. And she left me this message when she got her letter from the, hospital, I guess. She was in New Zealand. So her tests are free. Now, Of course, there's an enormous website behind this homepage. I guess you're probably guessing, right? And if you see these movies, these are all people demonstrating curing various diseases. These people chose to contribute their cures to your effort to cure yourself. There are around, I guess, over 800 movies, and some of them are linked to this page. So if you click on any one of these pictures, it will go to a movie, and that movie will start playing. So join the cult. Your friends will be worried about you. You're in a cult, they'll be worried. You have the crazy idea that you can cure medically incurable diseases. They're going to be very concerned. Especially if you're battling cancer. Your friends will be worried, and that's a good thing. You will cure things. And that is also a very good thing. You will begin curing things the moment you join, because that's how you join. You cure something. When you cure something, you're in the cult. If you want to get out of the cult, just stop curing things, and you won't be in the cult anymore. Easy to exit. Your easy exit strategy. And who knows? You may even cure the medically incurable disease that you came in here to cure. A lot of us did. That's me there in the movie holding forth on how to cure things. I'm on the cure team. That's what I did. I cured a medically incurable disease. Two of them, actually. So I cured 2 kinds of herpes. It was about 4 months after I started doing this that I actually discovered, I'm the person who discovered that you could cure physical diseases. July 1993, my 20th anniversary just passed. I haven't had an outbreak of herpes for 20 years, and before that, I was having outbreaks for 28 years. I got herpes in 1965. The end of the year. 28 years of outbreaks followed by 20 years of no outbreaks. That's how bad it can be and how good it can be. If you let it be good. So, take the courageous step that almost everyone you know will advise you not to take. Join the cult. When you're in the cult, your friends will get sick and you will get well. Your friends will give sympathy and you will give cure. And you'll know that you don't even need to take a vitamin pill to cure something. You can just cure it with nothing. Just with you. What can you contribute? What will your contribution be? This woman is curing a flu right on camera. She came in with full symptoms and they were all gone in 15 minutes. You can see it happen. Flu is an incurable viral-based disease. It's medically incurable. She cures it right in front of you. We eagerly await your contribution. And here they are, eagerly awaiting your contribution. And anything that you say to any of these people will probably be a contribution of some kind.